This episode is sponsored by the Paper Trails Greeting Company. Runners near and far, hear ye, hear ye. There's an amazing company that's dedicated to celebrating and encouraging every runner that laces up a pair of running shoes, and it's called the Paper Trails Greeting Company. This company offers something that's hard to replicate in a text message, and that is a physical, innovative, and genuine note of kindness that supports and celebrates every runner. The motto of the company is that every runner belongs, and each card proves that. The cards preach community among all runners, and there's a card for each season of a runner's journey. If you've run a new personal best, there's a card that celebrates that. If you suffered an injury, there's a card that lets you know that someone is thinking of you and that you'll come back even stronger. There's even a card that celebrates your significant running other. For me personally, I never felt like a runner. But then I stumbled across the Paper Trails Greeting Company, and it inspired me to pick up running again, and eventually it made me feel like I was a part of the running community. Go on their website, papertrailsgreetingco.com, and check out their incredible selection of cards. Use the code Lactic Acid in all caps for 15% off your order. They also have inspirational stickers and PDF printouts, so be sure to check those out as well. Then follow them on their social media page on Instagram, Paper Trails Greeting Co., as well on Facebook. And always remember to celebrate every runner and that every runner belongs. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, saints and ain'ts, and welcome to Lactic Acid, the podcast where the takes are fresh, the ideas are ripe, and that makes us the best in the bunch. I'm your host, Dominique Smith, and today we have a thrower on the show, so you know it's a big deal. You know Dom loves the throws, and we're going to make sure that we hype up one of the most difficult events in sports. I have one of the best throwers in the country on the show tonight. Her name is Micaela Hazlewood. What's going on, fam? I'm so pumped that you're on the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yes. So, Micaela, we're going to get a chance to know about you. You're going to teach us some fun things about the art of throwing. But I have to ask you a question that I ask everyone once they come on the show. But I'm going to tweak it up just a hair. If you had to pick a superhero or television personality to describe you as a discus thrower, who are you rolling with?
I would go with Jessica Jones. Do you know who that is?
The name sounds familiar, but it sounds familiar from a show that I do not watch, but people probably tweet about.
So she is a superhero, Marvel superhero. She looks like your normal person, but is freakishly strong. So that's kind of how I feel that I look. If you saw me on the street, you'd just think I was a normal person. But once I'm in the ring, my super strength comes out.
Oh, I love that. Listen, it's nothing but the throws tonight. So which movie would she be on? I'm not too in tune with the Marvel series, to be honest with you.
So I don't think she's on any of the Marvel movies. Okay. She had her own TV show when Marvel was on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
But now that Marvel's not on Netflix.
Yeah. Oh, you cut out just a little bit, but the part I did get was that Marvel is on Netflix or is not on Netflix, but I do remember that it was at a certain point on Netflix, and I thought it was the weirdest thing ever, but people absolutely loved it. So I guess I missed it, but that's okay. That's all.
I think that Disney Plus might have bought those shows to where they're now on Disney Plus, but
that's
I don't know that for a fact.
Well, I have to look and see. If it's something interesting, because multiple people have said like, "Oh, this is something you should watch," and I was like, "Okay, well, you know, if it's something that will pique my attention, then I'll check it out." But hey, you never know. Jessica Jones. Okay, I like that. And that is like the perfect segue to, because shot putters are normal people until you get into the ring, and then you throw something that people have no idea how heavy it is, 200 feet, then you are a superhero, essentially. So you threw the discus, and you are a discus thrower. And then if I'm not mistaken, you threw the shot put in college as well.
Yep. I threw shot and hammer in college. So
and hammer. Oh my gosh. So you are the jack of all trades and the master of all. Wow. See, I'll get to that. I don't mess with the hammer. I don't mess with the hammer because I can't even walk straight, let alone, toss a hammer, that far. So it's a wonder I didn't die throwing the discus. But how did you get into throwing? What attracted you to the throws?
So when I started track, throwing wasn't necessarily what I was focused in on. But my friend convinced me to go try out throwing with her. And I picked it up. I loved it. I never left the ring after that. So yeah, I wanted to be a long jumper when I started track.
Oh, really? Okay. Did your coach ever let you try it?
When I started track, I was 2 weeks out of getting out of the hospital with pneumonia. So I did try long jump, but I couldn't even get down the runway to jump without not being able to breathe.
Oh my gosh. Listen, pneumonia is nothing to play with. Oh my goodness. Well, you made the right choice because you are necessary in the throws. We are back. Just had a minor technical issue, but guess what? The internet sucks everywhere. Technology is overrated, but we are back talking embarrassing discus throws. So, we were saying earlier before we kind of got disconnected for a bit. I was asking, did you have an embarrassing moment that resembled mine? So mine was a senior last discus competition. And here's the thing, high school athletics, it's very, and it as a college athlete, the throws can get you some serious points and it can help towards getting a team title. So I really, I won't say I screwed my team because I made up for it in the shot put. But caught 3 L's on 3 throws. And here's the bad part. They went 3 different directions. One went to the left, one went to the right in the pole, one was in the center, and then dipped to the right. So I was like, oh my gosh, is my life not an L at this moment? Which it was. So my question was, did you have anything that resembled that? Or am I just that bad?
Yeah, so I think it was the first time that I had spun in a meet. I threw it over the net and into the track. Luckily, there wasn't people running, but I had finished the spin and then kind of pulled it across my body and it went up and over the left side into the track. And I fouled out of the meet. So I've definitely had some difficulties in meets before, that's for sure.
That happens so often though. I hate it when they ran the 4x8 while we were throwing the discus, because I was like, there is a decent chance that somebody is not going to make it. Thank God, that didn't happen, but it was kind of risky for sure. And so talking about the spin, and I don't want to have you repeat the nuance of the spin, but going back to what we were talking about, the perception of weight throwers. You mentioned that, and I'll just have you do it again, but you were talking about, well, go ahead and repeat it about the weight room and something that you wish would go away as far as the perception of the weight throwers compared to everyone else.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of athletes or even other track athletes have this perception that throwers aren't working as hard or they're not as athletic or have the same level of fitness. And throwers have different levels of fitness, of course, but we're training things differently. We're in the weight room a lot longer.
You're good.
We're in the weight room a lot longer. We're, working on those technical nuances of the throw, which takes a lot of time. It's a lot more technical than some events, not all. So we're, spending the same amount of time. It just looks different than what it might be for another athlete.
We don't run for me, running was punishment, if it was outside of the warm up. I know there were some, cases where we did have to do some gassers and stuff like that, but I did hate that too, because it's like, all you do is throw. Well, there's so many, you have to have fluid hips. You have to be, agile, especially with the things you have to do. And then the things that are required of throwers in the weight room resembles what's required for the runners on the track. Maybe I'm wrong in thinking that. Obviously, you're the pro. Would you say that's an accurate assessment?
Yeah, I think that the runners do a lot of their strength or conditioning training by running, which makes sense because, that's what they do. Whereas throwers do a lot of their strength and conditioning work in the weight room because they have to be strong, or they have to be fluid in their movements through the ring. So a lot of that, like footwork drills or stuff like that might not be specific throwing technique, but definitely hounded on a little harder for a thrower.
You've done the discus, you've done the shot put, and you've done the hammer, and you stuck with the discus. As I said earlier on the show, I am a fan of the hammer. It's nothing that I could do because that's just an accident waiting to happen. Why the discus of those three events?
I mean, to put it simple, it was the one I was the most successful at.
yeah, listen.
But I have always loved the discus more, I think.
I used to, when I first went out to check out the discus, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I saw people spinning and how far it was, but then I thought it was like throwing a frisbee. And then like they put a discus in my hand. I was like, oof. Like this is challenge. This is challenging. You've been able to find success throughout your career, first at Purdue, and then at Kentucky, obviously crossing over Big Ten lines to the SEC, and the competition is elite. What have you learned over your years of developing as a discus thrower to where you are now? You came in second place in the Olympic trials. And so you're throwing over 200 feet and you're really, really, doing well, one of the best in this country. But how has that progression been for you and what have you learned?
Yeah, I mean, as much as like the technical aspect or just like getting stronger has helped me improve, I think the older I've gotten, the more I've understood like how important the mental aspect of everything is and how to focus in and hone all of that in, to be able to go into the ring and like not necessarily expect yourself to throw far, but believe that it's there and that you're capable of it. I would say when I was, a freshman, sophomore, even by the time I graduated at Purdue, I still was battling that like on meet day, regardless of how practice was, like, am I good enough for this? Like, can I do this? Whereas now, like I go into the ring and I'm like, I'm prepared for this. Like I've done this every day at practice. It shouldn't be any different. If anything, these nerves I'm feeling is, more energy to put into the throw. So I think that's the biggest component of throwing that I've learned as I've aged.
The one thing that impresses me about discus, really all of the throws, and that kind of, goes to your point about, people not thinking that you guys, do enough as far as, the quality of work. You have to be pretty athletic and agile. I know for me, one of the reasons it took me a while to adapt to spin, and I glided with the shot put, spun with the discus, but I can barely walk on 2 feet straight, let alone spin in this ring. It's like you're low-key claustrophobic. Like, what was it about, or how were you able to adapt to the nuances? Like, are you kind of like me, kind of like a little clumsy and everything? But if you are, like, how did you adapt to throwing and using such a incredible technique in such a small space?
So I always like to make the joke, I'm one of the clumsiest people, but you wouldn't tell when you watch me throw. And I think that I put in reps and reps and reps to, learn how to do it and how to do it properly. to where I wasn't falling in the ring, because I've fallen several times throughout my career. And I think just taking it, breaking it down step by step, or finding out like where you're losing your balance or what's causing the issue to where you're losing your balance at that point is so important, to where you can learn the nuance and start working to smooth those pieces out.
Track and field is one of the weirdest sports in the world because it's very, in some respects, cliquish, not necessarily from the athlete's perspective, but how it's covered. Meaning all the sprinters get the love, and deservedly so. I love sprints. I'm from Florida, born and raised, still here. The culture of sprinting and track and field in the state of Florida is incredible. And then obviously, there's a sprinting community, which is a little more universal, because, when the sprinters run something stupid, stupid being good, usually it'll catch ESPN's attention. Distance has their community. But the throwers and just the field events, it's like they're kind of being left out in more ways than just, being on TV and stuff like that, but they're not getting the proper funding. They're not, in terms of endorsements, in terms of contracts and all of that fun stuff. So what is it that keeps you coming back year after year to throw the discus?
I mean, I just love the sport. I love the challenge. I love that it's all on my shoulders every day. And I'm still improving. So to me, to stop while I'm still seeing myself rise is like almost failing myself, because I never figured out where the top was.
Yeah. I love that.
So I keep coming back for more. It just, the moment that I'm like, I feel like, I'm starting to plateau, like maybe this isn't what I want to keep doing, then I prove myself wrong. And so then I have to keep going again.
Yeah. But it's really cool, to see your progression, especially, kind of your journey, to get where you are, and, seeing the improvements to where you were second, at the Olympic trials. The one question that, and I have my opinion on this, and I'm never talked with an athlete about this until tonight, and that's one thing that, I'm interested to hear others' comments. I think they should do away with standards. I understand, they want to kind of legislate it, to a point, but I think it's kind of silly, because you take away the competitive aspect. Like you're not competing against somebody else. You're trying to get to a standard, meaning, okay, well, if you suck at the Olympic trials, and, I don't mean stuck, but, if it wasn't your day, or you go to a certain meet and it wasn't your meet, it's like, okay, cool. It doesn't matter because I threw this, but you can be digressing instead of progressing. And the person that's progressing, is the one, and that showed up, is the one that kind of, misses out. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts about getting rid of standards and actually keeping it to the level of competition of people who earn their spots on teams and certain events and stuff like that.
Yeah, I see where you're going with it, but I think when it comes to like the Olympics or world championships and stuff, a lot of people brought that up. Like, you got second, and you beat them, you should go. But we have to think in the world scheme of things. So like a lot of countries don't take 3 people to these meets because they don't have qualifiers. So it's kind of like there has to be some sort of standard to like allow equal opportunity across the world. I do like this movement towards world rank, to where it shows who is like consistently competitive, rather than it just being like someone having a really good wind, especially like with discus. We don't have like wind aided throws or non-wind aided throws. So like there's meets that like you go and you catch a big wind. So someone could hit a standard when they're not necessarily like consistent. So this world rank playing into it, I think, is a really good thing for our sport. I think it's going to help promote the sport in general and have the most competitive people at these championships.
For the throws community, what do we need to do extra to put the throwers on the map? That's kind of a universal question with Disney World answers. So that's what I'm curious about. Obviously, as a content creator, but athletes can only do so much because there's only so many hours in the day. Unfortunately, I think the thing that stinks is, in this sport, with the things that you all are required to do, that should be your main concentration. But you have people who have to make a living to make a living.
Right.
What is it? How do we change this? How do we, make it where, if you want to, do something extra, you can, but you don't feel pressured to do so. You can concentrate on what you love and what you're good at, what you love and what you're good at.
Yeah. So obviously, like, I've promoted myself on social media a lot more than I ever have in the past year, trying to spread the love of track and field. And like, I think a lot of people think track and field is running and they don't realize the field part of it, and that there are throwers and jumpers and vaulters, and that all of us are working hard and have our part of the sport, and that the sport isn't quite the same without us all. So obviously, like, professional athletes, collegiate athletes jumping on this social media and bringing exposure to the sport, I think that our federations or these TV sponsors and such should start promoting all the events equally to see if they're still getting the viewership. We have a lot of this fight as throwers or jumpers that they say, well, your events don't get watched, but we're not getting the exposure on TV to even see there are viewers to watch it. So I think there needs to be some push from all aspects to try and get more exposure. Social media is obviously the easiest way because we have control, but like you said, there's only so many hours in the day. I work 40-hour weeks and train on top of that, and then try to do the social media thing. So there's not that many hours in the day.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize how hard it is to do social media. Like, I downloaded TikTok thinking, oh, I'm going to use this to help promote the show. No, that is, I'm not, you see, I'm 27. I'm not about that Gen Z life. All those little kids, they know how to do that stuff. I'm like old. Like, I don't know. And even just to get a post to function, like, you have to record it, you have to make sure it's right, then you have to edit it, and then it has to be within the time frame of Instagram to do this little reels thing. So it's not as if it's like, okay, well, let me just post something real quick. It's like, nah, like, there's some work that goes into it. So I definitely understand where you're coming from. And yeah, like I said, if we are this big, track and field community, then we should not have communities, separate from one another. And obviously, a thrower, Ryan Croucher, will never get the attention of a Usain Bolt. That's fine. But there's a whole community of people that they're not being exposed to the different elements of the sport. Granted, it's fine. It's like on USA TV Gold or, Peacock, NBC Gold or whatever. But, no one has $50 to pay for that consistently. So it's an ongoing push, but it's like, okay, it's time we start putting some movement, into this, instead of these festive slogans and little things like that. One thing that I want to know and that the people want to know is, who are you off the track, outside of the discus ring, outside of the spinning merry-go-round that is known as the discus, where you throw that little thing 200 and however feet? Can you, like the OJ said, can you give the people what they want?
So like I said, I work full-time. I work as a quality supervisor at a psychiatric hospital. So if you see, I promote mental health all the time. That's just within me that I feel like people need to know, like, anyone can get help. So psychology, promoting like doing what's best for your mental health just as much as your physical health is really important to me. But then fun things I like to do would be hiking. My husband and I go hiking all the time. I have 2 cats, so I love my cats. And
Okay. I'm not a cat person. I don't know why they like mess with my allergies or whatever the case might be. It's like they're like cool and everything, but it's just like I'm not about that. So talk about your work as a supervisor at the psychiatric hospital. What kind of, made you want to go into that? It's very important, and that's really cool that you do that.
Yeah, so originally I wanted to go into sports psychology. After my husband started his PhD, I was like, I don't know that I want to get a PhD. So I went into health administration so that way I could work still in the psych field, not as much the sport part of it, but I just feel like there's people that have to help each other as much as we have to help ourselves. So I work on like the quality stuff, making sure that like we're meeting our metrics and doing what's the best for patient safety and staff safety. And I love what I do. I love helping the patients. It's awesome to see like when they come in versus when they leave and the progress they've made while they've been here.
How rewarding is that? And what have you learned from it? Just seeing everyone else's journey and having a small part in it.
Oh man, that's a hard question. I don't know. I feel like it shows that like I'm more than just track and field, as much as I love it and as much as I've embodied it for 15 years now. Like it's so rewarding to see that like I can be successful outside of sport, and that I can aid in other people's journeys to, get better themselves, as much as I'm not as much of like direct care staff. Like our nurses and PCAs and therapists do so much for those patients. So it's still rewarding.
How the hiking part, it seems like every thrower is a hiker, or there's something. What is it about hiking that you love so much? Because it's like, you already do a lot of weightlifting and stuff. Why do you want to add more? In a sense, exercise is great. I'm not saying don't exercise, but I'm just saying, the Lord went to sleep on the 7th day. He rested. So, what is it about hiking that you and your husband love so much about? Yeah.
I love being outside in general. So it's an easy way or an easy excuse to be outside, but also like just to see the beauty of the world and to challenge yourself in another way. Like hiking is a completely different way to push my body. So I always like to push myself to see where I can go with anything that I do. So I don't know. I love it because it's rewarding. You like struggle up the mountain and then you get to see the view.
No, that's fair. Like I did go on a hike before, and obviously it depends on the time of year that you go. If it's super hot, then no, you just need to go home. But other than that, it is rewarding. What's your favorite place that you've hiked? Or favorite location?
This past October, we went to Zion National Park, and hiking the Narrows there was probably the coolest hike I've ever done. Wow. It was on my bucket list to do, and it was more than I could have ever imagined. Hiking up the river and seeing like the different rock formations of the canyon.
That is, wow. That's impressive. Is that like a dream hike location, or do you have like a bucket list of places that you want to go and check out?
Yeah, I have a bucket list. My husband and I, in our vows, even said we were going to go to every national park in the U.S. before we died.
Ooh, okay.
But definitely places outside of the U.S. I'd like to go to.
Oh yeah, some of those foreign places. Have you been to Arizona yet? Towards the Grand Canyon?
I haven't, but this fall we're going to hike north to south rim of the Grand Canyon, so I'm pretty excited.
Okay. So when you do have downtime and you're not hiking and you're not throwing or working, what's like the go-to TV show? Or for a lot of people said they enjoy cooking. Like what's that? No, not about that cooking life.
We watch TV all the time. I can't really think of like what my favorite TV show is, but I do love podcasts.
Okay.
Love true crime podcasts. So Morbid is my favorite podcast.
Oh, God. You see, I don't, and you can enlighten me because I'm not an expert at the true crime podcast. I like to go to sleep at night. You know what I'm saying? And try to get a peaceful rest in the rest of the Lord. How do you how are you able to listen to that like consistently? I've never understood listening or watching because I know Netflix has a ton of crap, on that stuff and these murder mysteries and all of that. It's like, can't you just turn on the news or something like that? Like that doesn't deter you away from it. Like, what is it about, that true crime that you enjoy? Like how they figure it out, or
I think just like hearing how they like come to like the conclusion to figure out who did the crime, or just back to the whole psychology and like how different people's brains work, like what led that person to do that, I think is the biggest part of why I like true crime.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. Okay. It's still nothing I'm going to do, but that is a very interesting perspective, honestly, that I never thought about. That is legit. How do you train, and like, how do you work 40 hours a week and then train? Like, how does that? No, that's a good question. How?
I logistically speaking, I like work 8 hours from like 7:30 to 4 are my work hours. And then I change my clothes, hop in the car and drive to practice for an hour and a half. And like I said, I don't cook. My husband does all the cooking. So
that is nice. That is, but here's why I say that's nice. I'm not I retired, after high school. So 2012 is when I submitted my retirement papers from being an actual thrower. But it actually takes time to cook, and it takes energy, and it takes mental solitude. And I can tell you, I have burnt my fair share of chicken, just like not paying attention to it. So I do definitely understand that. So back to track for a little bit. You were a Kentucky Wildcat and a Purdue Boilermaker who, if I'm not mistaken, they play tonight. Or did they play last night? I don't know. I'm an Ohio State fan and a North Carolina fan. Ohio State caught the L, God bless, but North Carolina got the W. So I don't really pay attention to any other team outside of throwing my bracket in the trash. But what were those two experiences like for you? Because it seems like there is a difference, especially in the winter.
Yeah, we're talking about weather-wise. Yeah, Kentucky is consistently warmer. So training outside, you could train outside longer. It was a shorter period of time between, when you had to go inside to train discus versus when you could go outside. Kentucky has a huge field for training. So when you were inside, you're still seeing the discs fly. Purdue, we were in a little corner throwing off of the Mondo into like old high jump pits.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But Kentucky puts a lot more money into their facilities.
That's true.
I mean, SEC schools in general are a lot more, have a bigger push for their athletics. Whereas like in the Big Ten, there's a huge push that your academics are way before athletics, or at least in my experience at Purdue, that's how it was.
And football, seemingly with the Big Ten conference, football and basketball, those are like the major, kind of money makers. And then, like you said, academics is a big deal. And SEC country is all athletic. And that's not to say it's not academics as well, because there are great academic institutions in the Southeastern Conference. I don't want anybody coming at me, saying that, the SEC is not a school-based. No, it is. Trust me, University of Florida, schools like that, Vanderbilt, very, 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 very high in academics. So no, that's not what I'm saying at all. But what were some of the things that you learned from both experiences that has helped you on and off the track?
Yeah, I mean, the push for academics at Purdue, as much as like people can see it as a negative, like I think I had to work so hard to keep both things going at the same time that I learned time management at a whole new level, which helps me today trying to balance work and training and being able to like be honest and upfront and talk through with, you know, like my boss now and my coach versus like my professors at Purdue, like when I was going to be gone, you know, how I needed to make sure I was meeting deadlines and all of those kind of things. Super helpful. I learned how to train in adverse conditions for sure too.
Oh man.
Spring in northern Indiana is not, you know, ideal by any means. And then I think at Kentucky, there was so many resources within the athletic department, and from the top down, like you were cared for so much as who you were as a person. So, you know, you weren't pushed. I mean, as you were pushed to be the best that you can be in athletics, but it wasn't like at a sacrifice to who you were as a person. And I think that is such an important thing to learn.
This is an odd question, but I'm just curious. What was the best meal that you had at Purdue and at Kentucky?
Oh, God. I'm trying to think. There were so many places that we went. And I can't even think of it. There was this place at Purdue. What is it called?
What do they sell?
That I don't remember, but they had the best mac and cheese, and they had like deep fried cheese blocks with this raspberry sauce that you dipped it in, and it was delicious. It was downtown Lafayette. Sorry to, you know, the owners that I can't remember.
We'll give them. I'll look it up. That you had me until you said raspberry sauce. So you like a compote?
Yeah, it was like a little compote that you dipped the cheese block in. I know it doesn't sound, but it matched.
It slapped. Oh wow.
So
it's like like a large cheese curd, but like in a block.
Yes.
And I'm just trying to wrap my head around fruit. I mean, fruit and cheese go together, so I guess it's not too far off. Interesting. Okay, I will look that up because I have heard that there are some really good restaurants in the Lafayette area. What about Kentucky? I wonder if there's like a super Kentucky Fried Chicken down there or something like that. If you try,
I'm sure there probably is, but I think bourbon in Toulouse is good. It's like Creole food for really cheap, so I eat there all the time.
I'm looking up the was it a barbecue place? Because there's something called the Whisper Room, Broadus Burgers, Blanchard's Barbecue, Social Southern Table and Bar, Pops Po' Boys, Market Eats, Lumberjack Soul Foods.
I feel like it starts with a D.
There's Fat Pat's Bar and Grill, Bon Temp's Grill, Zay Rotisserie Bar. This says the North Side Vegan, but that's not vegan.
No, that's definitely not.
Newark's Eatery, Grub Burger Bar, Cafe Coachella, Super Taters, Mercy Kitchen. You said start with the. We will find it. We will, because anything that good deserves a proper shout out. We'll find it by the end of the show. And I'm always thinking, like, just in case. And then there's something called Betty's Fried Cheddar Cheese Cube. I don't know. Anyway, that actually sound. The more I thought about it, I was like, I can see that. Like, I can do that. You know, some fried cheese with a little raspberry sauce and like a nice dope. Well, for me, being from the South, is sweet tea. Some nice, very sugary sweet tea. I can do that. Okay, I didn't know Purdue was about that life, but listen, that's what's up. One thing that I do admire, we kind of touched on it earlier about your Instagram, is that you are like a coach. You're like the Instagram coach for the throws. And you do such a creative job, breaking down the technique and answering questions, like engaging, with the fans. How difficult is that to do, specifically to make it in such a way where the person who did not know what a discus was, if they thought it was a spaceship, could understand it?
It is difficult. I will say I talk a lot through with both my coach, Keith McBride, and with my, I guess we'll say other coach. I kind of have two coaches, Travis Coleman at Ohio State.
OH, yeah. Sorry.
Try to talk what I'm wanting to explain to, like, I always think of like a sixth grader that's just started discus trying to learn how to do it. But I mean, it could be at any age. I'm like, how do I talk this through at this concept? So then I'll kind of talk it through with them. And then they kind of give me feedback. And maybe you should use this instead of that. And so they kind of have worked with me to promote this. And I've redone it a video a few times before, because I'm like, I just don't think I would get this if I hadn't done it for as long as I have. So it does take a lot of thought, but I think it's important that we have multiple people out there, especially women. There's not a lot of women promoting throwing. Right. So I try to take that upon myself.
Why do you think that is? Because I feel like that's a very important, that would be very important, because there was, when I was coaching, one of the coaches, came to me because I was having trouble teaching her a concept in the shot put. He said, listen, show her videos of Michelle Carter, because she needs to see another woman doing what she's trying to do. And it clicked. So why do you think that is? Like, we can call you a content creator now, in addition to it. Maybe not a TikToker just yet, but I feel like you can take the TikTok world by storm.
I started TikToks, but still trying to figure it out.
Okay, well, let me know when you have it down pat. Then, because I don't even know how to like, share, and subscribe and all that fun stuff. But why is it important, in your opinion, for the women to do what you're doing and showing this next generation what's possible and being so vulnerable in the process?
I just think it's important, like you said, like seeing someone like you do it, or seeing women be confident and being strong and powerful and bigger than what is considered normal by any means. I think the more exposure you have to people that have similar likes as you, the more confident you can be in what you're doing. And I think that it's so important that women can see other women, or, people of color can see other people of color doing things, and so on and so on. I think exposure is so important to where you can have that confidence that you do belong in the community.
Absolutely. Love that answer. A couple more questions, then we're going to go to our last segment. Then we're going to wrap this bad boy up with a bow. What is your goal? What is the ultimate goal for you in your career beyond the track? So a better way to ask it is, what do you want your legacy to be in and out of the discus ring?
I think there's two main things that I really want my legacy as a thrower, or as part of the community, is really promoting mental health and the mental aspect of sports. And then secondly, just proving that you don't have to be what everyone thought was what was going to be good. I had so many people say, you aren't going to make it at the Division I level. You're not big enough to be a thrower. Defy the odds, prove people wrong. It happens every day. People are considered too big to do something, too small to do something, too tall, too short. just give it your all.
I've never understood that. People be like, yeah, you're not big enough. And it's like, well, that's why there's a weight program, a weight training program. That's why there's nutrition. You're supposed to help me, get to that level and stuff like that. People, y'all need to stop doing that for real, because that's mad annoying. What can we expect from you this year in the discus ring? Because I just have this feeling that you're about to be like the Loyola of Chicago of the discus ring, like Sister Jean, not this year's Loyola team that lost in the first round, but like the really, really, really good one that like busted everybody up.
And my goals for this season is to have a meet average over 60 meters. Obviously to make the world championship team and then make the final at world championships. So those are my main goals. I also would love to throw 65 meters and would really love to throw 65 meters at the world championships. So those are side goals, but definitely goals.
I'm going to say it first. And so I'm going to keep this episode because when it happens, I want my respect for it and obviously yours. I think you're going to hit the medal stand for real this year. I think it's possible. I think it's possible, especially what you learned from last year. And I know you've done interviews about, kind of what happened. You touched on it briefly. Am I crazy to think that? Obviously, you got to believe it, but I think you can hit the medal stand. Like, just even watching, I was like, dang, just looking at your form on the throws on the phone, it's like, that's like 225. Like, oh my goodness. It's like you can see it through the phone. Am I crazy to think that?
We'll see what happens. I'll show up to compete. That's exactly how I'll do it. You never know what everyone's throw on the day, but if you can expect anything, it's that I'll compete.
Hey, we're going higher than that. We're getting medals. We're going medal. Going to bring home that hardware. When you win the medal, you got to come back on the show. You got to have a reunion episode. Definitely.
Fair enough.
Last segment. This segment is called Down the Home Stretch. I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions. I want you to answer them to the best of your ability. If you do not, it is a-okay. We are now up to 6 people who have actually done well. The leader right now, it is a tie between Allie Feller and another fellow thrower, Kara Winger. So,
boil her up.
Yes, boil her up. Boil her up. Yeah, absolutely. They're losing right now, but guess what? It's still a bunch of time left in that game. Are you ready?
Sure, ready as I'll ever be.
There you go. Listen, she said she was going to show up and compete. That's what we're about to do. If you had to pick a food that you had to live with for the rest of your life and a food that you would get rid of in a heartbeat, what would it be?
Well, mac and cheese, as referenced earlier. I would live with that for forever. And then hamburgers. I don't like ground meat.
I did not expect that. Okay. I'm not. Okay. That's okay. Listen, to each his own. That's my philosophy. I don't know what's right for you. You don't know what's right for me, like the song says. Okay. If you had to pick a TV star or a movie star to portray your life in a movie, who would you go with?
I feel like Jennifer Lawrence. We have like similar builds. She has like the quirky humor. I'll go with Jennifer Lawrence.
Okay. What is a fun fact that no one knows about you?
I was the mascot in high school.
What mascot?
We were coal miners.
We got to pause down the home stretch because I got to ask about that. So I don't even know what a Boilermaker is. So what is a coal? So how do you dress up? Because I'm not about to disrespect coal miners, but what is that? Tell me what that looks like.
All right. So the mascot was like a traditional coal miner, not like how coal miners dress currently. So it was like plaid shirts and overalls, a hard hat, boots.
Okay. So like that lunch pail, that old school mentality. Okay.
Yeah.
That I have, and what state was this? And I have to look this up.
Indiana. I'm from Linton, Indiana.
Okay.
It was a town founded on coal mining.
Have you seen the show The Middle?
Yes.
Okay. That's like, I don't know. Is Orson a real place or is that just a fictional?
It's a fictional place. I think it was actually recorded in Terre Haute, Indiana, which is like 40 minutes from where I grew up.
Okay. Well, I just had to ask. I don't know. It looks so realistic, stuff like that. The coal miners. I am not mad at that. I had just never heard of that. Like, but that's listen, blue collar people deserve a blue collar mascot, blue collar mentality. I am all for it. If you had to pick someone to narrate a discus meet, who would it be?
That is.
And by narrate, I mean they had to commentate. Like you go up to the ring, they go over the ins and outs. Anybody.
I'm going to go with Kara because she's done it at US Championships before and did it beautifully. So shout out to Kara.
Okay, Kara. Listen, Kara, we got to make that happen. Whenever you decide to retire, you got to get into the booth. We need you in the sport.
She did it at US Championships in 2019, and she was perfect. Like saying the weight of the implement and compared to your normal household goods, it's great.
Kara Winger, we need you, fam. We need you. We need you. I feel like a Kara Winger, James Earl Jones tag team duo would put the throws on the map. That's what we need. USA Track and Field, let's make this happen for real. Let's make this happen. Okay, last television show that you binge watch.
I just binged the second season of Upload on Amazon Prime.
Okay, definitely. Okay, I have heard of that. Okay, not bad, not bad. If there was a trend that you wish that you could bring back and a current trend that you wish would go away, what would they be?
Oh, a trend. I am really not good at this one.
So it could be TikTok. It could be the popular answer on the show are skinny jeans. Or somebody said those jeans that are like look like plastic bags at the bottom. Stuff. That's been the most popular answer.
And I'm trying to think of past trends that I'd want to come back. And like
overalls, the Cabbage Patch, tennis shoes, television shows. I'll take that.
Gaucho pants, because they're so comfortable. That's a terrible thing to say when I come back because they're so hideous, but comfort.
Wear what makes you comfortable. Give this gaucho pants. Listen.
And then
go ahead.
Current one to get rid of. And all I can think of is TikTok trends because I'm trying to, get on this TikTok.
I said TikTok in general, so. Oh man.
Many TikTok trends are toxic. Right now there's one that's like an audio saying crazy and you say something you've done towards someone. So I probably.
Yeah. No, yeah. Two more. If there was an event that you could run or compete in track and field, what would it be? Like your dream event? That's not the long jump.
The heptathlon. I love that it's such a balance of all the events and a true testament to athleticism.
Okay, so you love pain. Essentially. Last question. So in high school, I don't know if they had it in Indiana, but we had a weight 4x1, where all the throwers, got together to run a 4x1. Let's just say you're on the team. you need to pick 3 other throwers to join you. Who are you rolling with?
Am I mixed gender or all one?
So it's you. So you're the anchor. So you need a lead off. You need second and third leg. And go ahead. Who's coaching?
Who's coaching?
Yes.
I feel like if I'm going straight female throwers, let's empower women here. I'd pick Val to lead off. I think I would have Janae. And who else do I want on my team with me? Rachel. We'll go with Rachel. We'll make it some discus throwers plus a hammer thrower.
So Val, Janae, Rachel. Okay. And then you're the anchor. Who's the coach?
I mean, I'm going to pick a sprint coach to coach me. So I'm going to go.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Coach Hall at Kentucky because he's doing some great things down there.
He is. He really is. Kentucky women's team came in 3rd place in the NCAA indoors. No shade. I actually thought you were going to pick Kara. Or like.
I love Kara. But I already picked her for something else. So, you got to spread the love.
That's true. We got to spread the love, plenty of love to go around. Where can the people you survived down the home stretch, A+, and got a lesson about coal miners? I actually, the more I think about it, the more hip I get to that mascot. Where can the people find you?
I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, all at Mick Throws. That's pretty much where you can find me. I have an athlete page on it or Facebook, but not very active there.
Facebook, nah, can't get that Facebook life, but that's all good. I appreciate you coming on the show, for dropping some incredible knowledge, telling some incredible stories. Thank you for taking time out of your busy life to join us at Lactic Acid. You all know where you can find me, Lactic Acid _pod on Twitter, Lactic Acid Podcast on Instagram. I am on TikTok, Lactic Acid Podcast, but as you can tell through this episode, don't try to follow me. I know I've been telling you to follow me, but there's a good chance it's probably going to be deleted within the next 20 to 30 business days if I cannot come up with a concept that entertains me. And then you can go on the website, lacticacidpodcast.org, where you can find all the links that I just mentioned, plus our YouTube page, Lactic Acid with Dominique Smith. And if you're interested in sponsoring the show, do me a favor, reach out to lacticacidpodcast@gmail.com. Love to talk with you. Would love to bring your brand to our family, and check us out on FanHub. It is the one-stop shop for track and field fans, and you will get a chance to meet some incredible talking too fast, some incredible content creators, journalists, athletes, all of the above. We got everything you need. Until next time, we will catch you later.